Hello, everybody. My name is Gennaro. I am the managing editor of Bolt from the Blue. Sometimes I do this thing where I turn on my webcam for an hour and we chat. Um, as you probably noticed, if you've ever watched this before, I got a new computer with a new webcam that seems to be of higher quality, or at least show you a lot more of what's going on behind me. So that's good. I have a microphone thing that I'm using. I don't know if I need to. I don't know if it's making things better. I don't know if it's making things worse. Point is, audio and video are different this time. So if you notice any problems, notice any differences, want me to go back to the old, I don't know, way of doing things, at least with the microphone. My old laptop died. I can't go back to that. Let me know. We have an open thread going on boltsfromtheblue.com. That's likely how you're watching this. It's pretty hard to find otherwise. So far, there are about 10 of you in here, which is pretty good considering I posted this about 10 minutes ago. I have not eaten dinner. I just got home from work. I stopped at the liquor store on the way home. I got some Guinness Extra Stout, which looks like it's backwards when I'm holding it up to the camera. It's okay. It's not bad. I was getting a little tired of 805 because I keep drinking that because my nearby liquor store doesn't have a lot of good craft beer. Anyway, you're not here for that. You're here for me to talk about sports and to talk about it with you. I have things I want to talk about. Brandon Flowers, Chargers roster, comparing the 2014 offseason to the 2008 offseason, which I did in a post earlier today and everyone got mad at me for. Lots and lots and lots of stuff to talk about. However, as per usual, my content here is going to be driven by you. I'm going to spend a lot of time looking over here, checking out your comments, answering your questions, going on topics that you want me to talk about. The show is driven by you guys. It's very much just a visual representation of stuff I'd be saying in the comment thread anyway, but it's more fun this way because you get to see what happens when I drink a bunch of beer and I don't eat dinner. Okay, already hearing audio and video quality are way better. Look at that. We're almost a professional thing. That's good news because I would like to start doing these more regularly. Football season is around the corner. During football season, I like to try and do this at least once a week. We may even do more than that, depending upon if you guys become more acceptant of me talking about the Padres, me talking about World Cup, me talking about anything and everything. I don't have a radio show in San Diego, so this is all I have. But I get a lot of tweets, I get a lot of emails from people saying, like, why don't you have a radio show? I'd love to listen to you. So I'm going to try and do this more regularly because for some reason you guys like listening to me, and I like doing it. It's fun. So let's kick things off. I have a ton of questions that people have asked me, both through Twitter and the thread earlier today. I didn't write them down because I didn't have time because literally walked in the door, I don't know, 30 seconds before this post went up. It is nice to see, wow, we're already up to 20, good. Nice to see a bunch of the regulars here in the open thread, keep things fun, keep things fair, very sad for the person with no beer. So I want to answer most of the questions coming in. Mostly what they're centered around is kind of Brandon Flowers, although Kyle answered most of the questions about Brandon Flowers as far as who he is, what he'll do, how he fits in with this defense. We know most of that by now. My job is more big picture stuff. I could do film analysis of different players. I like to leave a lot of that to my staff. I don't want to take every idea because then they have nothing to write, and I love reading them. I look at more big picture stuff, full roster things. And a lot of people are asking me questions like, what does the defense look like now? Now that we have Brandon Flowers and Jason Verrett and Steve Williams is coming back, is cornerback still a weakness? What's the weakness on the team? What's the weakness on the defense? What should I be looking for? So we're going to answer some of those big picture questions. Okay. So as far as what the weakness on the team is now, I I don't think it's the secondary anymore. Weddle and Jaleel Adai appear to be pretty good. There's no one on the roster that I'd like to replace them. There's really no free agents out there that I would like to replace them. I flirted with the idea, of course, of Jarris Bird coming in as a free agent and basically playing 2 free safeties instead of a free and a strong. But if they're going to play a strong safety, Jaleel Adai is probably the best they're going to get. So fine with safety. Cornerback, like I said, Brandon Flowers, Jason Verrett, Steve Williams. These are all guys that may not fit Rex Ryan's defense. They're not going to play a lot of man. They're not going to be very physical. But as far as guys that can play zone, are instinctual, will make plays, will create turnovers, that's about as good a group as you're going to get, potentially. As long as Steve Williams is the player we think he is, as long as Jason Verrett can be the player we think he can be, there's a lot to like about that group, which is amazing because, when was the draft? A month and a half ago? A month and a half ago, we had nothing. We had Sharice Wright and a whole lot of nothing. And now you didn't even hear me mention Sharice Wright in that group. I don't even know if he's a top 3 cornerback on this team anymore. He's going to have to earn his spot, or someone's going to have to get injured. But I think if the team goes with Jason Verrett, Brandon Flowers, and Steve Williams as their top 3 corners, that might be the best group they have. Either way, there's an overabundance of talent at cornerback, which is amazing. It is amazing that Tom Telesco went a month and a half ago from nothing to an overabundance of talent at the cornerback position with no salary cap space to speak of and a first-round draft pick. Incredible. Amazing. And I love it. So secondary, not a weakness anymore. On the defensive side of the ball, there's still weakness at nose tackle. We'll get to the Ryan Carruthers, or Carruthers, I think it's Carruthers. Ryan Carruthers question that was asked in a minute. But nose tackle's a weakness. Inside linebacker is not that bad. I still don't love the depth there, but after they signed Kavell Connor, it's a lot better. So I don't even know if you can call that a weakness. Outside linebacker, you got a bunch of guys that may or may not stay healthy, but again, overabundance of talent there. So the defense has the talent. I think we're at the point now where there's really no more excuse for John Pagano. If this defense doesn't play well, as long as they stay relatively healthy, so healthy as the rest of the league, average health. As long as they have average health, the defense should at least be good. Like, I'd say slightly above average is what I'm expecting with average health. So that's good. The weakness on this team now becomes the offensive line and the wideouts. The wideouts are a bit of a problem. You have Keenan Allen, who's great. Then you have Eddie Royal, who is not great, but had a pretty good year last year. They seem to know how to use him. You have Malcolm Floyd, who you can't trust to stay healthy, and I still don't believe is the best fit for the offense we were running last year, which it sounds like we're going to be running some variation of again this year. You have Vincent Brown, who was absolute garbage last year, and for all the articles about how amazing he looked in OTAs, I need to see him going up against a real defense. There's nothing to like there. There's nothing to like outside of Keenan Allen as far as a number 2 wide receiver is concerned. There's nothing. Everyone's got flaws. Eddie Royal can't play on the outside. Malcolm Floyd is as glass bones, and Vincent Brown is terrible. So not a lot to like as far as wide receivers go. The offensive line, but people are talking about the wide receivers. People aren't so much talking about the offensive line. Jeremy Clary's still there, injured, and so therefore not getting reps at the moment, but he's still there as the right guard. He sucks, especially as right guard. Fluker is good. King Dunlap is good. Dunlap has health issues, concussion issues. There's really no backup unless you want to believe that Mike Harris is as good as he was for 2 games last year before he gets injured. And even if he is, he played 2 games, then he got injured. So I don't know that you can say there's good depth there. At guard, there's pretty good depth. At center, yes, Rich Ornberger came in and had a good playoff game for Nick Hardwick, but do you want to trust him over more than a game or two? Probably not really. So I don't love the offensive line depth. I don't love the fact that Clary is still around. I wish there was some sort of backup swing tackle that I trusted, but maybe that's Mike Harris. But yeah, the primary concern, the primary weakness on this team right now is probably wide receiver, and there's not a lot you can do about that at this time. Even if a wide receiver becomes available, I mean, there's 5 or 6 wide receivers per team. You're probably not going to find someone that can fit the number 2 spot that a team's going to be willing to cut. At least not one you're going to afford with your $1 million in cap space. What happens to Ryan Matthews if he has another solid year? Let's say 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. All right, I'm trying to check and see in my head if Tom Telesco ever really ran into this problem, and he didn't. He was there after Edgerrin James. I don't know. I mean, I guess, did they sort of let Joseph Adai walk when he was there, I think. If he does like 1,800 yards and 10-plus touchdowns, I think they find a way to re-sign him. There's a lot of money coming off the Chargers cap next offseason. Tons. I referenced it in a tweet when I was talking about Brandon Flowers because everyone was like, oh, 1 year, 1 year, 1 year. This is a terrible move. Chargers have almost no cap room this year. Next year, they have like $35 million coming off the books. Plenty of room to sign Flowers and Matthews if they're worth it. I don't think Tom Telesco is going to pay a lot of money for a running back unless he's a top 5 running back. Does Matthews have that potential? Absolutely. He still does. He is a top 5 running back for last year. He was a top 5 running back for a 4, 5, 6 game stretch of the season. If he can do that for 10, 12, 14 games of the year, can't let that guy walk. You cannot. Not when you have $30-something million in cap space. So I think he comes back if he has a huge year. If he has a solid year, like 1,000 to 1,200 and 7 touchdowns, I don't know, 1,310, you're kind of in that gray area. At that point, it's going to depend on what his demands are and if they're realistic or not. I love Flowers, but don't we still need a taller corner? Okay, I worried about that too. I'm sort of done worrying about that. I watched enough film on him and on Verrett and Steve Williams last year and Brent Grimes that I'm convinced if the corner is good enough to be in the right position, the height doesn't really matter. He just has to be in the right position, time his jump, time the ball, blah, blah, blah. Most of the times when it comes to a jump ball, you're going to have some help. Safety's probably going to get there if he's got the right coverage, and then you got 2 guys that one of them is going to get in position. I'm not that worried about it yet. It's something I'm going to keep an eye on. But as far as do we still need a taller corner, we're stuck with this cornerback group. They're not going to go sign someone who's going to be a starter who's going to be really tall. They will keep an eye on it this year as well. If jump balls become a problem, especially in the end zone, if we see that the Plaxico Burress nightmare over Antoine Cason, where every time someone gets near the goal line, they just toss jump balls at our cornerbacks, then yeah, they'll probably let Flowers walk after the 1 year, and they'll try and get a taller cornerback. But as of right now, I'm pretty convinced that these guys can handle it because I think they can get in the right position. And the idea with a jump ball, you know, if you play the ball instead of playing the man, you have a pretty good chance at it, even if you're a little bit smaller. Week 1 starter with no injuries, Adai or Gilchrist? Adai. You will see come training camp, Gilchrist is going to be taking more reps at cornerback than he is at strong safety. Greetings, fellow Friday night losers. Yeah, there's 40 of us now. Yeah, we got nothing to do on a Friday night. What about it? In retrospect, would I rather have Deshaun Jackson, which no, you did not spell that correctly, or Brandon Flowers? That is an excellent question. Okay. Let's go back a few minutes. I said cornerback at this point has an overabundance of talent because there are 4 guys that could legitimately fill 3 positions. And then I said there's no one right now on the team that I like for the number 2 wide receiver spot. I would rather have Deshaun Jackson and put him in the number 2 wide receiver spot and take my chance with Jason Verrett, Sharice Wright, and Steve Williams, and then some combination of the rest of the random cornerbacks that are on this team to fill that number 2 wide receiver spot. Because I think the number 2 wide receiver spot, look, it was hurting the team at the end of last year. All they could throw to was Keenan Allen. One of the reasons Ladarius Green got more chances and got on the field more and got more passes thrown to him was because they had to take Vincent Brown off the field because he was so bad. So it limits your offense. I mean, granted, we were still a very good offense to a great offense without him, but I would rather have a dangerous number 2 wide receiver than have a good number 2 cornerback if you already have one. Yeah, that's making a lot of assumptions about Jason Verrett, but yeah, I'd go with Deshaun Jackson, but that's just me. I totally understand if someone says Brandon Flowers. Totally okay. It's a very close call, but I go Deshaun Jackson. You mentioned lots of cap money coming off the books. Who will we putatively sign next year from outside the organization besides Matthews and or Flowers? I don't know. I haven't looked at the group of the group of free agents, and that would be kind of boring for you to watch me like go through it. But well, no, because there's guys like, if our number 2 wide receiver situation just blows up and it's terrible, there's guys like Demaryius Thomas that are going to be free agents now, but they're working with the team to sign a long-term deal, so he's probably not going to be available. I think someone just tweeted at me. Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. People are still fighting with me about Norv Turner. I don't want to deal with that. What's the over-under on when Malcolm Floyd gets injured this year? On a serious note, what's the backup plan if he gets injured? Because Keenan sure as hell getting all the double teams at that point. Don't forget about Keenan Allen's knee either. Knees, I think. He's got bad knees. Like, it's well and good to say, oh, we need a backup plan if Malcolm Floyd gets hurt, but we should also probably have some sort of backup plan if Keenan Allen gets hurt. Right now, there's none at all. They're not going to put Eddie Royal on the outside. Vincent Brown will be absolute garbage as the number 1 wide receiver. What if Malcolm and Keenan get hurt? That's what happens when you have shitty depth at a position. As far as when the over-under is week 8, I mean, he had a run of 2 or 3 really healthy years before the weird neck injury last year. So I'd say there's a pretty good chance he makes it, but there's also, the guy seems prone to weird injuries. In Kansas City, Flowers was left alone too damn much. Yeah, so the guy that's the defensive coordinator for the Chiefs, Bob something, Shepard? Something standard and boring like that. Let's call him Bob Jones, although I'm sure it's not Bob Jones. Called a ton of blitzes and had Eric Berry in man coverage a lot because Eric Berry's not the greatest in zone coverage, which was smart, and their defense was great. But yeah, they leave their cornerbacks in one-on-one man coverage a lot, which, look, everyone was shocked when the Chiefs released Flowers. Guy's a Pro Bowler. He was pretty good last year, despite the fact that people think he was bad. I mean, this guy made the Pro Bowl. He can't be that bad. And I asked Joel Thorman, who runs Arrowhead Pride, why he was released. And he basically said they didn't like his contract, paid him a lot of money. And number two, he wasn't a good scheme fit because they run a lot of man. They need big physical guys that are good at man coverage, and that's not his game. So, yeah, obviously he wasn't a fit with what they were doing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have cut him. They would have just kept on paying him. He is a fit with what the Chargers are doing, which I'm sure was a big reason he signed here. Why so confident in a die winning the strong safety job? Because the team is absolutely in love with him. Absolutely in love with him. Like, really, really, they love him as a person. They love him as a player. They love his story. They love how hard he works. They love the fact that he was an undrafted rookie. They love how hard he worked last year. They love he's a big hitter. His coverage skills aren't that bad. He's young. He's excited. He's happy. They love everything about him. And he's got a future. What is there to love about Gilchrist? Gilchrist has been crap since he got here. Honestly, he's been crap since he got here. He gets paid a ton of money. Well, not a ton of money, but a decent amount of money because I think he was a second-round pick. He didn't make it as a cornerback, so they moved him to safety where he was terrible. He's in the last year of his contract, so even if he's good, he's gone. And when was the last time you heard the team promoting Marcus Gilchrist for anything? When was the last time they had a video interview with him? When was the last time they tweeted at him? The last time they did anything involving Marcus Gilchrist? So the team loves a die, which tells me they believe he's a starter with a future. A starter that will be a starter for a while. That's why. Would you be surprised if Green wins the number 1 tight end spot in this offseason? Yes. I think there could be a point where Green is playing more snaps than Antonio Gates. I think the way they would work that is they would have him line up as like the slot wide receiver like Gates used to do but doesn't anymore. I think they'd have him do some of that and have him get more snaps than Gates because Gates cannot continue to play 90-95% of the snaps every game. He just can't. He wears down. But at no point is the team going to move him to number 1 on the depth chart that they send out every week and move Gates down to number 2. They would not put Gates through that, essentially. Who fills out the bottom half of the Chargers' outside linebacking core? Has Cordero Law shown anything even though they were just in helmets and shorts? Just helmets and shorts. Can't show anything. Despite what they tell you about Vincent Brown at OTAs, you can't do anything impressive at OTAs. Except learn and be eager and show up with a bunch of muscles. Over under on combined sack total for Freeney and Ingram. Good question. I will put the over-under at 15.5. Now the question is, do you take the over Or do you take the under? You think the two of them combined are going to have more than 15.5 or less? They're going to have 15, they're going to have 16. World Cup question. Can you name just one player on Belgium's squad? I cannot, but that guy just named 5 of them. Good for him. I've watched Belgium a couple times. So all of the games happen while I'm at work. Luckily, my boss is pretty cool, so I can bring up Watch ESPN on my second screen and have it playing over there. Most of the time, I'm not listening. Most of the time, I'm working over here and just glancing over and glancing over and glancing over. And I have the sound just high enough where if the announcer starts yelling something, I can look over, but not enough to, like, learn players' names. Except for USA. I will watch USA with headphones on so I can learn all the players' names. But no, I don't know the names of the Belgian squad. I have watched both of their games, or 2 of their 3 games, I guess, and they are dangerous as all hell. Bob Sutton. Yeah, that sounds like the Chiefs' defensive coordinator. Who has better individual stats, Gates or Green? Green. I think. Yeah, Green. Any undrafted guys you think can make the team this year? Yes! There is a guy named, oh god, I'm going to get this wrong, Alden Darby? Is that it? Hold on, Googling. Alden Darby checkout? It does! Okay, Alden Darby. Alden Darby is a safety. People are going to say they're going to compare him to a die because he's a safety and he's an undrafted safety and he tends to hit hard. He actually reminds me a little bit more of Darryl Stuckey because I like his coverage. And he's tall and he's good hands. How's this? Let's go back a couple questions and I'll answer it with this one. I think there's a decent chance that Alden Darby makes the team over Marcus Gilchrist, depending on how the cornerback situation works itself out. Can we start a PayPal account to compensate Kyle? No offense, but he's carrying this blog lately. Bold, I know. Go for it. Nothing's stopping you. I'd love to see Kyle get some money for it. We should hire Charging Clint? Why? By the way, I don't disagree. Kyle is amazing and seriously, really, really talented. I'm waiting for the day when one day he tells me that NFL.com has hired him or something because he deserves it. And the blog is going to, oh man, I'm going to be so sad when he has to leave, but that kid's moving on to bigger and better things. Hopefully not too soon, though. Still hoping for the Vincent Brown that we saw play against the Raiders in 2011. Wow, that was the most AJ Smith thing ever. I'm hoping for the Giles Tucker that used to get 3 sacks per game against the Oakland Raiders. Like, you can't. The reason Vincent Brown suffered last year, and there's a post that I'm sure somebody can find for you and link for you. Kyle broke it down, of course, and showed all the things that Vincent Brown was doing wrong last year. His footwork, his route running, his everything. He wasn't going for the ball. He was playing scared. And basically, he's just a really poor fit for this offense that says, get off the ball quick, get open quick, and get ready to catch the ball quick. And that's not Vincent Brown's game. And it never has been Vincent Brown's game. He wasn't drafted for that. Vincent Brown's game is run downfield 10 or 15 yards and then have such a good move that you're open at the tail end of a 7-step drop. 7-step drops don't exist in this offense anymore, or very, very rarely. They were very much a Norv Turner thing. They drove me fucking crazy. But they don't really exist. So he doesn't really fit with this offense. And I think he's in the last year of his deal. So I expect a mediocre year from him. And then team lets him walk. He goes and he signs with some team that's a better fit for him. Who gets the kick returning job? It will not be Keenan Allen. No, 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 no. Take him off of your list, please. It will not be Keenan Allen. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if it ended up being one of the cornerbacks that they have. So like Steve Williams or not one of the starters, Cresdon Butler, something like that. Danny Woodhead's in the equation. I think Eddie Royal might be, but I don't know. It's going to be as open a competition as there will be at training camp, which is fun. Did I make it to Tony Gwynn's ceremony? I did not. I'm not sure I would have gone anyway, to be completely honest with you. I mean, maybe I would have, but ceremonies like that they're not for Tony, they're for the fans. They're for the fans that need to go there and they need to cry about it, and I didn't need that. Grieve Tony in my own way. How do you see the carries being split between Matthews, Woodhead, and Brown? Therein lies the question, right? I mean, that's an important one, and it's really hard to predict. I think Woodhead gets more snaps than either of the two guys, because Woodhead will be on the field with them a lot of the time. So they'll run a lot of sets that have both Matthews and Woodhead. They'll run a lot of sets that have both Brown and Woodhead. I totally believe that. As for Matthews and Brown, you have to be really careful with running backs, because you can't say, oh, Brown will come in when Matthews is tired, or vice versa. Because often what will happen in that situation is Matthews will have a great drive, lead the team from their own 20 down to the opposing 20, but then he's kind of tired, he needs a break, so then Brown comes in and Brown gets the touchdown. Can't give one guy all the touchdowns, make the other guy do 80% of the work. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see something where they switch series. One series it's Matthews, the other series it's Brown, the other series it's Matthews, the other series it's Brown. Something like that. Also riding the hot hand. Brown has 8 yards per carry and Matthews has 3. Maybe you let Brown stay in and you give Matthews a couple of series off. Stuff like that. I don't think Woodhead's really a part of the rotation. I think at this point Woodhead has his own position. Running back / wide receiver / everything man who can't be guarded. So I don't think Woodhead's necessarily a part of that. I think he'll get carries from time to time, but I think a lot of the carries he was getting last year are going to go to Brown. Breakdown of the percentage of plays played at nose tackle between Ryan Carruthers, Kwame, Lissamore, and or whoever else is in the rotation. That's a question answered in training camp. Right now, if I'm saying right now, I'm going 75% Lissamore, 10% Kwame, 10 to 15% Carruthers right now. But that's not something that I would tie my name to in season. This guy thinks 3 undrafted free agents are going to make the roster. Checking in from SFO. How long would you expect it to take Verrett to start? I think, honestly, Jason Verrett's the starter in week 1. I hear that there's another chance to see your local favorite Los Angeles band live. I tweeted you whenever your other show was, last week or the week before, asking how much it was to get in, and you did not respond, and that made me not want to go because I had to pay for a new computer, and I needed to know how much it was going to cost me to go to a show, because paying for a new computer is not the cheapest thing in the world. I don't know about all that Vincent Brown criticism. Yes, his stats were horrible, but he made some key third down receptions. Guess. Can you speak on how much better our offensive line has been since the new regime arrived? No more Gaither. King looks way better here than Philly. We've got guard depth finally, and DJ is pure beast. And follows me on Twitter. Congratulations. All right, let me put my bragging shoes on. I'm sure I wrote about this at least once last year. Sorry, I just realized that GTR Donald has a really great quote from Snatch in his signature. I had to read it and relive the scene. The zone blocking scheme, the one that I mentioned last year, the one that I said the Chargers were going to run, and then nobody believed me. And I pointed to the fact that Joe D'Alessandris was known as a zone blocking specialist, that he had been brought in at more than one place to install the zone blocking scheme, and still nobody believed me. Power blocking, some sort of hybrid scheme. And then most of the year, they ran zone blocking schemes. And what happened? They were good. Hardwick didn't get overpowered. Fluker showed that he was mobile and loved getting to the second level to kill people. King Dunlap was very good, got a lot of help. Really, outside of Clary, everyone played in the zone blocking scheme really, really well. And so you can look at it and be like, oh, well, the offensive line coach is good, and so they're good. But it's not like they showed up with some magic secret that the other offensive line coach that got fired didn't have. It's not like Joe D'Alessandris is a fucking wizard where you could put any offensive lineman in his office for 10 minutes and suddenly the guy is better. No, they went with a blocking scheme for the offensive line that works better. Like, everyone in the league has figured out zone blocking works better. Unless you have an offensive line filled with first-round draft picks that are just absolute studs, you should be running a zone blocking scheme. And power blocking worked really well when Hardwick was a stud, and Dillman was a stud, and Marcus McNeil was a stud, and Mike Goff was a stud, because all of those guys were awesome. They pushed people around. They didn't need any help. They didn't need any scheme. They're trickery. But these guys that we have now, the guys that we've had since Dillman and Marcus McNeil retired, they need help. They need help from a scheme. They need a little bit of trickery. They need to surprise defenses instead of just trying to overpower them. And so it's not so much that Coach D is this amazing coach, which, look, he probably is. It's that Mike McCoy made the call and said, we need to switch schemes. We need a scheme that helps our deficient talent instead of exposing it. So that's how the offensive line got better. The talent didn't get better. The scheme is now helping them. So there you go. Speaking to the offensive line being better. Name that tight end. 800 yards, 8 touchdowns. Antonio Gates. Wait. That's a lot of yards and touchdowns for Antonio Gates. I don't know. What are your top 3 guys who will likely be starters that you wished were replaced by someone else, not necessarily currently on the roster? I assume I can guess 1, maybe 2, but I'm curious who your 3rd would be. Likely starters that I wished were replaced by someone else. Clary. Lissamore. And do we have a fullback? Can I just say fullback? Like, I don't know that we necessarily need a fullback, but if there's one and he's likely to be a starter, I think they'll end up starting Green and have two tight ends starting instead of one and a fullback, which would be really cool. I guess Malcolm Floyd. Like, I love Malcolm Floyd, I do. But my problem, even when he's healthy, my problem with Malcolm Floyd is that he tends to get off to really slow starts. He's very quiet in the first half of games, comes alive in the second. Drives me crazy. But everyone else, I think, is pretty okay. Trying to think. Yeah, no, everyone else is pretty much okay. Explain to us common fans. Come on. I'm a common fan too. How much you believe the coaching staff has to do with great winning teams? Oh, it's like 100% of it. Not 100%, but like. I don't think you can have a great winning team without having great coaching. So 80%? Like, obviously the great coaching needs some talent to win. Like, you need some talent to be a great winning team. You need great coaching to be a great winning team. So therefore the coaching is significantly more important. Clary, Lissamore, Teo. No, I like Manti. I like Manti Teo. I do. As bad as he was last year, I still believe. Like, I don't believe the people that are like, oh, he was actually good last year. You just didn't see it. Those people are wrong. But I still believe Manti Teo can be a very good player. And so I'm happy to let him play that inside linebacker position this year. Totally fine with it. If Rhett and Flowers are cornerbacks 1 and 2, who plays nickel? This includes the possibility that one of the name 2 drops into slot. Steve Williams, I guess. Like, I wouldn't have a huge problem with putting Sharice right there, but I think Steve Williams is the better fit. Not had enough of Marcus Gilchrist in the slot. Excuse you, Jody is a fucking wizard. Okay. We could have had any other zone blocking offensive line coaches come in last year, and you would have had similar results. Not necessarily the same results, but similar results. Not saying he's a bad coach. I'm very happy with how quickly he taught them the zone blocking scheme. But I think the difference was much more the scheme than the coach. No true fullback this year, just that dude from Pittsburgh that is more of a hybrid / blocking tight end. That's true. That guy exists, and he's not going to be listed as a starter, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be Ladarius Green. All right, any more questions in here before I go digging through the old thread and Twitter and... I don't think his name on Twitter is Do a Die. I think it's Do or a Die. Taking the under on 15.5 combined sacks for Freeney and Ingram. Hey, we're up to 50 people. Hello, 50 people. Charles Clay. Is Charles Clay a free agent? It's a random name to throw out there for the Chargers to add. Gates had over 800 yards last year, only 4 touchdowns. Yes. Do you think Rivers moves past Dan Fouts on the most pass touchdowns in Chargers history this year? Depends on how close he is, I imagine. Hold on. Let's see here. I want the career passing leaderboards. Dan Fouts has 254 touchdowns. Philip Rivers has 221. So Philip would have to throw 33 touchdowns. Last year he threw 32. His career high was 34. So do I think he throws 34 touchdowns this year? I do not. Who are going to be the preseason surprise cuts? Gilchrist, Mouton, English, Gachkar. Ooh. I can't see Gachkar getting cut. Obviously, I can see Gilchrist getting cut because I mentioned it earlier. I can definitely see Mouton and English getting cut. I'm not sure those would actually be surprises, though. Do you see a big drop-off for Keenan? I keep thinking about that because this happens all the time in the NFL, in Major League Baseball, in the NBA. Player has a huge rookie year, and then the team, the fans, everyone is banking on the fact that they're going to be that good, if not better, the next year. And how often does that actually happen? I don't know. So does all the talk about a year of study for opposing defenses have any merit? Not really. I don't. Once Keenan played in like 4 games, they knew what was coming. It was just hard to stop. But, I think a lot of it is going to depend on that number 2 wide receiver spot, Frank Reich, the new offense, a lot of stuff. But, if there's a drop-off for him, it's going to be because he's seeing a lot of double teams, not for any other reason. Or because he's hurt. But it's not going to be like they figured him out and now he sucks. That's not going to happen. It would be way more street if you said fitty people. Well, we don't have fitty people anymore. Next time. Besides Verrett and Clary, does anyone have any lingering injuries going into training camp? Lingering injuries. The problem is you don't often hear about it. I mean, we heard about Verrett because first-round pick, and we heard about Clary because so many people were talking about him. But it's very possible that there are other guys out there that are injured that no one just mentioned because, whatever. They're guys that just didn't show up to OTAs, but it's not a big deal. Like, Antonio Gates didn't show up to OTAs and said it was a personal matter. For all we know, Gates has got a foot problem, and that's how they decided to address it because they didn't want people to freak out. So I don't know that we can say definitively, but as far as what the media has reported, no, I think it's just those 2 guys. At this point, can't we say that Rivers is the better overall quarterback than Fouts at this point in his career? The career's pretty similar at this point, right? And they both started good. They both had a little bit of a downturn, and then they both got better. I think Rivers needs a couple more years of being good. If somehow Rivers, if it's not, but if the 2013/14 season ends up being like the fluke in Rivers' career, like he started good and then he just got worse and worse and worse, and then there was one season where he was good and then he just went back to being really terrible, then Fouts is the better quarterback for his career. But if Rivers plays at a level similar to what he did last year for like 2 or 3 more years, then yeah, he's the better quarterback. Which we're all expecting. But things don't always work out that way. Someone misses Jacob Hester. That's sad. He's not even in the NFL anymore. Hardwick. I do not believe Hardwick is currently injured. Sorry. All right, hold on. We have 10-ish minutes left. I'm going to glance at the thread from earlier where I announced this. World Cup, we didn't really talk about, but throw your World Cup questions at me outside of names for Belgian players, because I've gotten into it, and it's fun. And I'd like to take a shot at answering them. CJ Wilcox, if any of you are Clipper fans, I'll bitch about CJ Wilcox for a couple minutes, so bring that up, because I'm very mad about that pick. 2004 Chargers schedule. Let's see. Someone listing the secondary. Totally forgot Richard Marshall signed a contract to come back. I don't think Richard Marshall's going to make the team. There's your surprise cut. Weakest unit on the team. I announced that. I would like to know why Carruthers is not expected to start at nose tackle. And Watt and Itachu are for depth and backups. These guys are as good as they seem, and Carruthers is that strong. Why don't they get a chance to light the world on fire? Is it simply time to learn the playbook? If there's a simple answer, I would like to know. Okay. Here's the simple answer. Oftentimes in college, players are essentially pointed in a direction and told to go. So Ryan Carruthers, putting you in the middle of the line, run towards the ball. So yes, it's a matter of learning the playbook, but in his case, because he played for some unknown Southern Alabama State Community Junior College, that he could simply overpower everybody. So all he had to learn was go this direction and be strong. Once you get to the NFL, go this direction and be strong doesn't work because everyone is that strong. In addition, everyone's got tricks, they've got schemes, they've got games. They know how to point you in the wrong direction. They know how to use your strength against you. So especially at nose tackle. So here's why nose tackle rookies. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I just got the funniest tweet. Someone responded to my, oh, this is starting at 7 p.m. Pacific thing by saying, shit, I missed it. Shit. Who builds fences at me? Shit. Who builds fences at 7 p.m.? That's me. Oh, shit. That was a hilarious reaction. Anyway, nose tackles. So nose tackles are very often, this big, strong guy that just overpowers people in college. When they get to the pros, not only do they need to learn the playbook, and there's not much of a playbook, they need to learn how to put your hands, how to put your feet. Here's your technique. And nose tackle rookies almost never start. And here's why. Nose tackles in 3-4 defenses almost always face double teams on every single play. So not only are you facing an NFL level player, you're facing 2 NFL level players that have tricks, they have schemes, they know how to fool you and use your strength against you, but they're also working together against you. So being strong doesn't matter. You could be the strongest person in the world. It doesn't matter. They will use that strength against you. They will make you use it against yourself. So you need to get good enough with your technique, and you need to get smart enough while you're on the field to not let that happen, and then your strength can come into play. So that's a very, very long process. It takes a long time to learn your feet, your hands, your brain, your weight, which way you should be shifting, how you should be shifting that way. All of that stuff from a guy who's basically a bull who's been pointed in a certain direction. For Itachu, he's a backup for kind of the same reason, but he'll get on the field. Because his job at UCLA was see quarterback, get quarterback. When you're a backup outside linebacker, a third down pass rush specialist, that's still your job. Your job is still see quarterback, get quarterback. Yeah, you're working against guys that are going to use your strength against you, whatever, but your role essentially doesn't change, and you're probably not facing two guys at the same time. So it's a little bit easier to stick those guys in and say, hey, go get the quarterback. You're used to doing that anyway, so go do it. As for Watt, here's the other thing. Rookies come onto teams, and they're never made the starter. Never right away. Jason Verrett, not the starter. Chris Watt, not the starter. Itachu's not the starter. Sean Merriman was not the starter when he came in. Phillip Rivers was not the starter. Johnny Manziel's not the starter right now. Name a player. He's probably not listed as a starter. The Jacksonville Jaguars spent the 3rd pick on, I don't know, Bortles, and he's not their starter. Chad Henne's their starter. Here's the reason. Number one, they don't want to give the kid a demotion in his first year. You name Blake Bortles the starting quarterback, and he's terrible. Then the big news comes when you have to move him down the depth chart. Oh, he's failing. He's struggling. He gets moved down the depth chart. That's not good for the kid. So you lower expectations, and you say, we're going to bring him along slow. He's going to be our backup. There's nowhere to go down from that. Even if the kid's bad, the story is like, oh, he's bad. And the team's like, well, yeah, he's learning. That's why we made him the backup. This is a process. And now the news isn't negative. Now there's like, oh, well, right, he's learning. It's the process. This is why they made him the backup. If the kid wins the starting job, then the big news is he's so good. He won the starting job. He must be so good. It pumps the kid up. So rookies start as the backup because there's nowhere to go down from there. Only go up. Now, Chris Watt could probably earn the starting job, but they're not going to name him the starter before he does anything, before he competes with anybody, because then if he shows up and he sucks, then it hurts everybody. So I don't think Carruthers will be the starter. I don't know if Watt will be the starter. I think there's too much talent in front of Itachu for him to be anything more than a pass rush specialist in his first year. But just because they're listed as backups or starters, I mean, look around the NFL. Every rookie is listed as backup. So it's not a huge deal at the moment. I mean, Carruthers is not going to start, but the other guys could, I guess, but they got to earn it. You know, no one's a starter the day they sign their rookie contract. But I think Verrett will earn it. I think Verrett could be a starter. I think Watt could possibly, depending on how his training camp goes and all that. But neither one of those guys can be listed as a starter on day one. Jason Verrett, you're going to see. Jason Verrett is probably going to be listed as the 3rd or maybe even 4th cornerback when training camp starts. It's going to be Sharice Wright. It's going to be Brandon Flowers. Probably Steve Williams ahead of him. Maybe even Richard Marshall. He will be down the depth chart. And then the news will be like, oh, man, like he's so good. They're going to try him out as starter. Oh, my God, look how good he is at starter. Okay, let's see. Over-under when M80 gets injured. We did that. Video is way improved. Audio seems only slightly approved. Assuming he means slightly improved. Still improved, right? Maybe if I just used the webcam mic, it would be better. Maybe it's better on the computer than even this microphone thing I pulled out of a drawer. Okay, let's see what you guys have been talking about. It's 8 o'clock. This is the... Hold on. I'm ringing the bell. You guys have between now and 8:15. It actually says 7:59 on my computer. You have between now and 8:15. This is the lightning round. You ask me anything you want. Absolutely anything. Chargers, Padres, World Cup, San Diego State, Rugby League, anything. Anything at all. My personal life, my cats, my work, my glasses, my tattoos, anything at all. And I will answer it honestly for the next 15 minutes. Lightning round. Everyone loves this part. I'm going to go grab a beer. I'm going to read through your comments. But you guys are usually a minute behind me anyway, so start with your lightning round comments. By the way, Guinness not on Nitro with creamy head, just not the same. This is basically Guinness in a bottle without the creaminess. This is not the same. Okay. I'm saying we win 10 games this year. What do you think? Sure. I usually give a range. Even in the preseason, people are like, oh, how many games are make a prediction? I think last year I said somewhere between 6 and 10. It could be either one. This year I'll say like 8 and 11. I don't think they're going less than 500. Even though it's a tough schedule, I think they'll win 8 games. I think they could win as many as 11. Do you understand alignments in soccer, like the 4-4-3? Do you understand the strategy behind them? Of course. I played basketball in a lot of zone defense. Seems complicated. It's very easy. 4-4-3 is an attacking zone. You're getting more guys up front towards the opposite goal, towards the goal you're trying to score in, than you are in the back. You run an end. You're trying to support the middle of the field to create fast break opportunities. I don't know what the word is for the fast break opportunities. If someone, when they're trying to hold on to the ball and it's, there's 10 minutes left and they're like, well, we don't really care if we score because we're up 1-0, but we're trying to defend, they'll run a 3-4-4 and pull people back towards the goal for rebounds and stealing the ball, which challenge, I think, is the name for trying to steal a ball. So yeah, it's very basic. You put more guys towards the other goal and you're trying to score. You put more guys towards your own goal, you're trying to defend. Easy? Probably wrong. I have a new alignment for NFL defense, the 7-4 all-out blitz with nothing but safety help. Yeah, someone already sort of mentioned this, but that's pretty much the old 5-2 alignment that the 85-86 Bears ran under Bum Phillips. That sound right? Basically 7 guys on the line going crazy, and then 4 guys making sure that there wasn't some deep pass over their head. But before quick passing offenses, before the West Coast offense, God, that defense was successful. But as soon as offenses were like, oh, we just have to get rid of the ball quick, and they're done, no one runs a 5-2 anymore. It was really crazy dominant for a while there. Glad U.S. is a bit more hyped up about the World Cup this year. I believe the U.S. could beat Belgium. Yes, they are a solid team, but we've proven that we can go toe-to-toe with some solid teams. I'm hearing that Altidore is actually practicing with the team. Maybe we use him as a super sub. Oh, God, I would love Altidore as a super sub. That'd be amazing. So here's what I heard and what I saw, which is Altidore during practice. Everyone else was practicing and running around. Altidore was running laps. But apparently this was a big test for his hamstring, and his hamstring ended up fine. So he will be practicing with the team. I think today he was just running laps. Either way, it seems like if you're good enough to run laps, you're good enough to come in with 20 minutes left and try and score a goal. Just sort of depends on where they put him. What do you expect from our defensive ends this year? I expect Legit to be good. I don't know why, but I do. Kendall Reyes is a big question mark for me. I expect him to be more like he was this past year than he was his rookie year. Somewhere in between, but more bad than good. Chad Henne blows. A couple years ago, I would have argued with you. When Chad Henne was with the Dolphins, I was a big Chad Henne fan. I was convinced that everyone was wrong about him and that he was actually good. And I was wrong. Oh, damn it. Why do I keep getting Itachi confused with the pass rusher from UCLA that everyone wanted? That's right. Itachi is from Georgia Tech. Still, everything else remains the same. His job was essentially see quarterback, hit quarterback. Rookie starters from the get-go. Andrew Luck, Cam Newton. Well, if he's the #1 overall pick, sure. We don't have a #1 overall pick. When did you grow the full beard? Looks better than the goatee. Less hipster, I guess. When did I? This past weekend. So I had a half day on Friday. So like I normally shave Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Last Friday I was like, well, I have a half day. Fuck it, I'm not shaving. And so I let the stubble grow in a little bit. And then it was over the weekend, and then I woke up on Monday, and this was kind of beardy. The goatee was pretty long, and so I had a decision to make. Either shave this off or shave this down, and I was like, fuck it, I'll grow a beard. Shave the goatee down. Weekend plans. I'm gonna finish season 3 of Game of Thrones. Probably play a lot of out of the park baseball. And I don't know, watch some World Cup soccer. See where the night takes me. It's 10 p.m. here in Houston. That's how Central Time works. Favorite band? God, it changes all the time. I've actually been thinking about this lately, like my history of favorite bands. Like in high school, my favorite band was definitely Tool. And then at some point towards the end of high school, it turned into Incubus. And then I became an adult, and it was the Beatles. And like a year or two ago, it was definitely OK Go for about a year. It changes. It changes all the time. It was Black Keys for about a year. Always different. I mean, I can just be safe and say the Beatles because the Beatles are always there. But as far as band I've been listening to more than other bands lately, I don't really have one. I've been listening to a lot of Lauren Pritchard. I think that's her name. Who I think only ever put out one album, but it's spectacular. So I've been listening to that album a lot lately. And ZZ Ward is another chick who has a really, really good album. Is probably coming out with a new one soon, but I haven't heard anything about it. But that one's great too. So those are the ones the two sort of chicks I've been listening to a lot lately. But favorite band, I'll tell you the Beatles because they're always going to be my top 3. Who will wear the number 24, Matthews or Flowers? Yeah, I think it's going to be Matthews. He's been wearing it long enough. There's a lot of 24 jerseys in the crowd. Flowers didn't sign a deal for like $20 million where he can be like, hey, I'll buy you a car for the number. He signed an undervalued contract, and potentially he's only going to be here for 1 year. I mean, don't forget that. If he's not great, he's only signed for the 1 year. So I don't think it would hurt him to wear number, I don't know, 30, 29, something like that for a year, and then see where it goes from there. He could switch to 24 next year. Matthews on the last year of his deal. So if Flowers comes back next year and Matthews doesn't, boom, 24. But to say like, hey, you got to wear a different number for a year, I know some guys are superstitious, but most guys are like, okay, fine, whatever, it's a year. I mean, Malcolm Floyd wore like 19 or something for a year. Who's the fastest guy on the team? Oh, it's always somebody that you don't expect. Like it's never the star player. It's always like the 4th safety. Yeah, it's probably one of the cornerbacks. Cresdon Butler, or that guy they signed from the Bengals that everyone was so sure was going to be a starting cornerback, even though he's like never done anything. Most overrated Charger on the roster. Overrated Charger on the roster. Ooh, I had an answer, but I won't say it because everyone will get mad at me. Sharice Wright. I mean, I'm sure I've said this before, but I didn't think he was very good last year. I wasn't a fan. Like, I was a fan of some of the things he did, but people were like, "Oh, he's a star. You can't replace." I didn't think he was very good last year. And the fact that Tom Telesco went out and got two guys that are ready to start when he had Steve Williams and Richard Marshall and everything tells me that he also is not like, oh, Sharice Wright is a big whatever. He was below average. What are your 3 favorite sports interviews / promos you've ever seen? For example, Mike Singletary's I Want Winners speech might be my current favorite. I love Mike Singletary's I Want Winners speech. Love it. I also, earlier today, I almost included on the post about the comparison between the 2008, 2014 off seasons. I almost at the end included Denny Green flipping out saying the Bears are who we thought they were. You want to crown their ass and crown their ass. That one is pretty great. Oh man, there's like a million from college that are really good. I'm just doing like post-game press conferences now because your question was kind of broad, and if I tried to pick every sports interview I've ever remembered, that would take a while. I guess the guy from Oklahoma State saying I'm a man, I'm 40, that one was good too. Had a good message too if you listen to the whole thing. Okay, so someone asked me on Twitter, guess Flowers' number 28, 30, 36 are available. I want to say 30, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be 28. What are the Padres going to do about their hitting? Fucking nothing. If we had hired Rex Ryan over Norv Turner, would we have won a Super Bowl by now? Depends on who the offensive coordinator would have been. I honestly mean that. It's totally dependent. If it was like Schottenheimer's kid, like Rex Ryan had, nah. But if it was someone good, if he somehow got a good offensive coordinator in San Diego, yeah, probably. The issue that everyone forgets. Like, oh, if we signed Rex Ryan over Norv Turner, it would have been better. Norv Turner inherited this team that blah, blah, blah. The offensive line got old. They lost Goff. But, I mean, really, the best player on each side of the ball was LaDainian Tomlinson and Sean Merriman. The last decent year Tomlinson had was Norv Turner's first year. The last decent year Sean Merriman had was Norv Turner's first year. That year they went to the AFC Championship game and almost beat a team that was undefeated for the year. So Norv lost his best defensive player, his best offensive player. Then he lost Jamal Williams. It was a huge deal. Then he lost Goff. Then he eventually lost Dielman and Marcus McNeil. Like, yeah, give someone else that team and maybe they have more success. But the fact of the matter is, if Merriman and Turner are both done by 2008 for them, you have basically similar fates. Like, I don't blame Norv for fielding a bad team. I blame Norv for poor player development. I blame A.J. Smith for drafting like shit. But people are like, oh, well, he was handed a Super Bowl team and then he wouldn't win a Super Bowl. Well, he came really fucking close his first year, and then after that he lost his best player on offense and his best player on defense. Name one team that ever lost their best player on offense and best player on defense basically in the same year. Like, either lost or the guy just became diminished because he was turning 32 and he had a shit ton of miles on his legs. Name any team that ever did that and then won a Super Bowl. Doesn't happen. Patriots haven't won a Super Bowl since they lost Ty Law, who was their best defensive player. I think that's true. I don't think they ever won one without him. You know, see if the Giants win one without Justin Tuck. See if the Ravens can win one without Ray Lewis. And that's just one side of the ball. Norv lost his best player from each side of the ball. And Kazima is good. He lost his best player from all three phases of the game in essentially the same year. That's really fucking hard to come back from. Anyway, done defending. I've been defending Norv Turner all day. I'm sick of it. What should my first official of-age drink be? Some sort of good, drinkable beer. My first official of-age drink was a Smittix, which is not a great beer, but it's not a bad beer. Very drinkable beer. Highly recommend it. But I would say like a good, don't go too crafty and don't go too shitty. Don't drink the Keystone. Fat Tire would work. Something that's good and drinkable. I mean, you gotta figure that night you're gonna get really drunk. So don't go too shitty in the beginning. That's a bad place to start a night. And don't go too crafty because it's a fun night. It's not a, oh, let's sip beer and talk about what it tastes like night. Find your middle ground. For me, it was Smittix. Prediction for score between USA and Belgium. Blonde Bomber says 2-1 USA. I say 2-1 Belgium, but I'm not rooting against USA, but Belgium's good. And we just look bad against Germany. So what happens if we get a tie? Like, that's what I want to know. It's the knockout stage, right? But you can still tie? I don't know. I'm learning soccer, but I've decided that after the World Cup is over, I'm becoming an MLS fan. I tried EPL. Schedule thing, it just doesn't work out for me, and it's hard to get the games in my current system, although maybe I can figure that out. MLS, I feel like, might be more accessible to me. I can go to games, either Galaxy or Chivas. So I'm definitely gonna. Oh, don't say Scotch for his first drink. Don't do that. But yeah, I'm into soccer. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoying it. I love the fact that there's just like 2 45-minute halves with no breaks. If things don't work out with John Pagano, do we hire back Wade Phillips? Wade Phillips is like 100 years old. I wouldn't do that. You gotta hire someone young. Let him stick around for a while. I've said where I work before and what I do. But I'll say it again because I think with enough searching, you can probably find me on LinkedIn and all that shit. I work for Fox Sports Radio. I run their website. I've been doing it for the last 7 months. I don't know if you've noticed, but my presence has become less in the last 7 months because my previous job, I was essentially a business owner. And so when I wasn't managing people, I had a ton of time to just screw around on BFTV. Now I have significantly less. Still trying to make it work. But yeah, very much my side thing. And to be completely honest with you, I wake up an hour before I need to in the morning, so I can spend an hour on BFTV in the morning. I get an hour lunch, most of which is spent on BFTV, and then I usually spend about an hour on it when I get home at night. But yeah, there are definitely some gaps there that I'm navigating my way through. But yeah, it's a side thing. Can't Flowers wear 18? No, he cannot. There are very specific rules in the NFL about jersey numbers and associating to positions. The only players that are allowed to wear numbers 1 to 19 are quarterbacks, punters, kickers, and wide receivers if they've run out of numbers in the 80s. Yes, cornerbacks have to be between 20, and actually they can go higher than that. It's between 20 and 49. No, nobody just entered my abode. That was apparently my fist or something. Will Tardit is here with the Clippers question. Do I like the Clippers draft pick? No! I hate the Clippers draft pick. CJ Wilcox is a fine player. He's a shooting guard. He can shoot. He can play a little bit of defense. He's fine. My problem is the Clippers have like 4 shooting guards already, including last year's first-round draft pick, Reggie Bullock. Even I was reading stuff today on the Clippers pick from people that were trying to make it good. They were trying to defend it. Clippers.com, other people that are sort of in the Clippers pocket, and Clippers beat writers. And even they said, well, he's pretty much a carbon copy of last year's first-round pick, Reggie Bullock, who got like 10 minutes of game time the entire season, played like 2 minutes in the playoffs. Like, really wasn't necessary. And they're not getting rid of any of their shooting guards, so it's not going to open up any. So they drafted a guy they don't need when they need a center, they need a backup power forward, they need a backup small forward, they need a backup point guard, maybe, unless Collison's good. They need so many things. The only thing they don't need is a shooting guard that can shoot and play defense and not do anything else, and that is exactly what they drafted. It is like if the Chargers went and drafted a running back. You know, they have Ryan Matthews, they have Donald Brown, they have Danny Woodhead, but they went and drafted a running back anyway. That's what it's like. Like, if they were like, oh, there's all these cornerbacks on the board and pass rushers and offensive linemen, but we're going to take a running back. People will be ripping out their hair, going crazy. This is what the Clippers did, and somehow people are like okay with it. I don't get it. It's the worst fucking pick I've ever seen in my life. So mad about it. Adrian Peterson is going to be average next year because Norv Turner ruins running backs' careers nowadays. Whose career has he ruined? They've been to 2 Super Bowls without Ty Law and numerous AFC championships. That mean they've won 2 Super Bowls without Ty Law? Oh, you can't tie in knockouts. You go to overtime and then penalty kicks. That's awesome. I'm pumped up for shootouts. I think that gives the USA a better chance. Because Tim Howard is a god. The Fox and Hounds in Studio City shows soccer early and serves. Best BLT you've ever had was there. Best BLT I ever had was Ladyface. It's a fantastic brewery, fantastic little restaurant, good food. Good food, not great food. Amazing BLT, though. Fantastic BLT. You don't have to run out of numbers in the 80s anymore for wide receivers to rock numbers in the teens. Yeah, that was like a recent thing, I think. Like a year ago, I believe they changed that, but I wasn't sure about it. I finally got back in time. Hey, John, did you answer my outside linebacker question? I don't know. What was your outside linebacker question? I answered one of them. I don't know if that was yours or not. Trent. Norv Turner ruined Trent Richardson's career? How is that possible? Norv Turner had Trent Richardson for all of, what, 2 weeks? Before he got traded to the Colts? Like, no, come on now. Right? Norv was only there last year. Last year was his first year with, yeah, because the year before that he was a Chargers head coach. He had Trent Richardson for like 2 games. Is Adai a younger lot? Jesus Christ, really? Ronnie... Sure. Jaleel Adai is a younger Ronnie Lott. I would hope so. Ronnie Lott's like 65. English is not the most overrated Charger on the roster. He's not. People hate him. They think he's trash. Can't be overrated trash. Not possible. Oh, here come the tweets. All right, it's 8:25, so you guys got like 5 minutes before I turn this off to shoot. your last few questions at me. Now with Flowers bored and less money, would you say Clary stays on the team? No, I still think Clary gets cut. Did you play Pop Warner, high school ball, or other? None, actually. I played baseball. I never played football. Um, for the following reasons. So I went to a high school that has a pretty prestigious football program, and the only way to get into it is either one, be recruited into it, or number two, uh, you would have to sign up to go to their basically their mini camp or their training camp, which was before freshman year ever started. So I'm sitting there thinking, oh, freshman year, I'll walk in, figure out when the signups are for the football team. I'll sign up, I'll try out because I love football. This is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna be some sort of little running back that powers through. I'm gonna be awesome, and because that was gonna be my position, running back, because I had good feet and great balance. And I walked in day one of freshman year, found the football coach, and was like, hey, how do I sign up for the football team? I want to. And he was like, oh, you missed it. I was like, it's the first day of freshman year. How did I miss it? He's like, oh, signups were 5 months ago, and our training camp concluded 3 weeks ago. Where the hell were you? No idea. No clue. It's like, I didn't start attending this high school until right this second. So anyway, so I missed my chance. And unless you were part of that freshman training camp, you couldn't be a part of the freshman team. And if you weren't a part of the freshman team, you were never going to make it to JV. And if you weren't a part of JV, you were never going to make it to varsity. So I essentially missed my chance. I wanted to sign up, but I missed my chance. So yeah, never played Pop Warner. I was too busy playing baseball. But how did you? Whatever. So I was too busy playing baseball for Pop Warner, and then yeah, in high school I wanted to sign up and I missed my opportunity because fucking weird rules. And to be fair, Marty Schottenheimer ruined LT by overuse. Absolutely he did. I went back and found one of the first things I wrote that I reference every once in a while, which was 2 months into the 2008 season, I basically wrote a thing saying LT's done, LT's been done, and here are the reasons why. And because I was so sick of people saying, oh, when a running back turns 30, that's when he starts going downhill. And I basically pointed out that 30 doesn't matter at all. All that matters is how many touches you've had, how many times you've been hit by other defenders. Guys like Thomas Jones went 3 years without ever being a starter, and then had a good year because after he was 30, because he was fresh. But LT just got beaten into the ground more than almost any running back I've ever seen, except Edgerrin James, I think, got beaten up more and totally disappeared, and Barry Sanders, and then Barry retired. So Schottenheimer used LT way more than he should have, and it wasn't age that aided Tomlinson. It was just being overused. Most overrated player should be Jaleel Adai. Sure, can't argue that. Oh, the Ronnie Lott thing was a joke. Okay, good. Sorry. Oh, okay. This question. We don't have anyone else in the roster who can set the edge and run defense at outside linebacker. Butler and Teo aren't particularly great at stopping the run. What's the plan if Jarrett Johnson goes out? I don't think we can expect Ingram to set the edge. So, are we fucked when it comes to run defense, or are we throwing Connor out there at inside linebacker and outside linebacker? Reggie Walker, I believe, was re-signed. Last year, he did a pretty good job of doing that. And no one's going to believe me when I say this. Everyone's just going to disregard everything I've said for the last hour and 30 minutes and for the rest of my life when I say this. I disagree with Kyle and Jerome in that I think when Melvin Ingram is told to set the edge and play run defense, he is good at it. I think the times he is bad at run defense are the times when he overruns the run defense in pursuit of the quarterback, which he does often. So not the best at like diagnosing plays, but if you put him in that position, you're like, hey, set the edge and guard against the run. I think he'd be very good at that. And honestly, he was pretty good at that in college, so I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, the Ronnie Lott thing is taking it. Green is overrated at this point. I both agree and disagree. Like, I think in terms of talent, he's not overrated. I think everyone's got a pretty good idea of how talented he is. As far as his production, I think people are overrating that, if that makes sense. I don't think his potential is overrated. I think his current production is overrated. You think that Antonio Gates is the most... Gates is not overrated. Gates is over the hill. If Clary gets cut, then Harris is our only backup at tackle. You need to have at least 2 backup tackles, which is the sole reason why Clary is going to make the team. You do not need 2 backup tackles. You really only need 1 if you can have one on a practice squad. I could have been the next Ronnie Lott. Thank you. I should link that LT article. All right, hold on. I found it earlier. It wasn't that hard, so give me a second and I'll find it again. By the way, I was laughing because when I started this video, there's like a little button to hit start, which thank God there is, because usually 3 minutes before this thing starts, I'm like shoving almonds in my mouth and I don't have a shirt on. So at least now I know when the thing starts, which is great. Hold on, linking the LT article. If I do that, that should work, right? Yeah. And so I hit start broadcast, and it was like, are you sure? Because this is going to be sent out to YouTube and this website and whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I want to. And then I see a little thing that says, you can stream for up to 8 hours. And I was like, ooh, one of these days, just an 8-hour Gennaroly speaking. That'd be awesome. Wasn't I calling it Generally Speaking now, and I was tired of, yeah, 8-hour Generally Speaking. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry I missed the fact that the Ronnie Lott thing was a joke. I'm doing stuff, talking. All right, looks like we've run out of questions. I've been doing this 90 minutes. So I'm going to call it quits. I'm going to go enjoy my weekend. You guys should do the same. I'm going to try and do this on a weekly basis as long as everyone's around. It is probably never going to start earlier than 7 p.m. Pacific. Totally apologize for that. But, you know, rent's got to be paid. So I love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for watching this. Thank you for chatting with me on Twitter. Thank you for reading the blog. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being a part of this thing because it is fun and it is awesome. And you guys are the best. Donald, I will go to your show. Anyone else that wants me to go to anything in support of them, I will tweet it. Let me know. I will post it on Facebook if you'd like me to. We are a community. I don't say it enough. We are a family. We are awesome. And we should stick up for each other. So thank you guys for being around, and I will see you next week.